Yo, what's going on, guys? You're here with Traversal ENT. Let's get into this one. All right, guys, look. Now, I'll be the first to say it. Saul Canelo Alvarez, 100% is an elite fighter, right? An elite fighter. He's been up there against really top quality names. And I'm talking about guys like Floyd Money Mayweather. I'm talking about guys like Eric Slandy Lara. I'm talking about, he's been in there with guys of that caliber, right? Even, dying fighters like Sergey Kovalev, who's on his way out. Nonetheless, Canelo still stepped in the ring with him. He's been in there with guys like Miguel Cotto, I believe. Let me just double check that. I do believe Cotto fought Canelo. I know I'm not making this up. I know Canelo won, but that's not a fight that I have very great recollection of. All I know is that I don't have a great recollection of that fight. I do know it happened in 2015 at the time, but I can't remember that fight, to be honest with you. I gotta rewatch it most likely. But Canelo's been in there with greats, right? So I take my hat off to Canelo. He's not a fight I'll ever diss, yeah? I know he's a bit of a diva sometimes. He likes to pick and choose his fights. He's a bit of a diva, and it's all, at the end of the day, if he wants to go chase money fights, then that's what it is, right? That's all well and good, and that's cool. But here's my problem with Canelo Alvarez, right? His next fight apparently is scheduled to be with a guy called Avni Yildirim. Now, guys, I don't know if you know who Avni Yildirim is, right? Yildirim is the guy who fought Chris Eubank Jr. That's why he fought Chris Eubank Jr. And that was actually one of Eubank Jr.'s best fights. He destroyed Yildirim so much so he knocked him out. They fought for the in the World Boxing Tournament, the Muhammad Ali Trophy tournament that was happening. They fought in that. Everything about that show was good. It was a very, very entertaining fight. Yildirim and his coach came in there thinking Eubank was a walk in the park, and they employed the wrong tactics against Eubank. They thought they'd slug it in there. And I've told you before, if you slug it in there with Chris Eubank Jr., you're not winning that fight. So Yildirim found out the hard way. He got knocked out. Now, this very same guy, Avni Yildirim, is supposed to be fighting Canelo next. I don't know about you lot, guys, but that stinks. That literally stinks. I don't want to see that fight. That's ridiculous. I do not want to see that fight. Now, contrary to some of you, you lot probably think I'm going to say I want to see him fight Caleb Plant or the other guys in the 160, 68 pound division that are dangerous. No, not really. That's not a fight I want to see Canelo in there with. I want to see Saul in there with who I believe is his most dangerous opponent. That's right, guys. He is the only person in Canelo's weight division. I say that, but Canelo's got to come down a weight class to fight this guy. But he's the only person who I believe has the best chance of beating Canelo Alvarez. And that is none other than Jermall Charlo. Yeah? I'm talking about Mal. Mall, not Mel. Don't get confused with the twins, right? Jermall Charlo against Saul Canelo Alvarez. That is a fantasy dream fight for me. That is a fight I've always wanted to see. And it's a fight that I would always pay hefty money to see. That's how serious I am about that fight. I would pay hefty money to see that fight. I'm not joking, guys. I would pay up to a £50 or a 65 US dollar pay-per-view to see that fight on screen. He is the only person who I think has the best chance of beating Canelo. Now, Bernard Hopkins had a few words to say about it, and let's see what he said. Let me see what Bernard said. I'll give you some quotations if I can, yeah? He said, even though it wasn't the type of performance we'd seen from Canelo before, that's why he wanted to get the rust off and be active as soon as possible, said Hopkins. He said that to Fight Hub, right, when they were talking about Alvarez's win over Smith. But then he goes on to say Jermall Charlo, Hopkins said, when asked who out there could give Canelo Alvarez problems. It's a dangerous fight for Canelo. Hungry, talent, more than one position, that is Jermall. But then he goes, he won a big fight and Canelo cannot start slow against guys like that. You can't start slow and walk them down. They get too far ahead, and it's like a station wagon trying to catch a Ferrari. It's not going to happen. There's too many good fights for Canelo. That whole 60, 68, and even 75, which he already went up there and did. He's already covered 3 divisions, but the 2 he can cover, 68 and 75, are more realistic than cutting down that weight. So there you go. He says that he doesn't see Canelo doing it. He says you start hitting your 30s and cutting down to 168, you might do it a couple of times, but if you do it against opponents like Jermall and some other dangerous names out there, that I don't see as much as those threats like Jermall. Then you start fighting against yourself. So basically, he's saying that number 1, Jermall's a dangerous fighter for Canelo Alvarez to fight. Number 2, Canelo's been campaigning at 68 and 75. Is he going to drop back down to 160 to fight Jermall? It is unlikely, he says. And he finally, he concludes it with saying that if you do all that weight cutting business, that could work on fighters that are not as talented as Jermall. But against someone like Jermall, if you start doing all that cutting business, you're basically beating yourself. But he does not believe that fight's going to happen. I've got a co-sign that I don't believe that fight will ever happen. I don't believe that fight will ever happen. But then let's see what else he said, because Hopkins said a bit more. He said, if it's anywhere between 60 and 68, I'd like to see Charlo and Canelo get it on. That's a big fight. His style, Jermall's pressure style, and his whole IQ, I call it a gunshot jab. And it's powerful and it's fast. It's not just one. He shoots out like a piston, and that can get your attention. His Jermall Charlo style of fighting and Canelo style of fighting is more of an aggressive counterpuncher. Now, guys, that is a fantasy fight. Like I said, I don't ever see that fight happening. I'm not holding my breath on that. No chance. I don't think that fight will happen. Unfortunately, you see, boxing has a habit of not always giving us the fights that we want. But you know what the problem is? And there is the universe finds a way to balance out everything. I mean, I say balance. You tell me what you think, right? Because when we don't get the fights that we all want to see, we then get those celebrity fights. The Logan Pauls of this world fighting another celebrity. And that's what happens. Because the boxing world doesn't always give you the fights you want at the time you want it. That's something else has to come and fill in the void in the meantime. We can't just leave a buffer. We can't just leave a period of no activity type thing. So then you get those big fights that are happening that are, a lot of these hardcore boxing fans don't particularly like. Hey, you don't want to see them fights, you best put on the fights that people actually want to see. It's not that complicated. So guys, who do you think wins that fight? It's a fantasy fight between Jermall Charlo and Saul Canelo Alvarez. That is a fight I'd love to see. I think it's a 50-50 fight, but I believe Charlo is the most dangerous opponent Canelo could face out there, in my personal opinion. All right, guys, that is it for the video. Please make sure you subscribe. Let your friends know about it. Share the video. Hit the like button. Make sure you add the notifications for when I release these videos. But guys, let's get the subscriptions up. This channel's been on it seems to have plateaued in terms of the subscribers, but I get my views. I mean, the views are way higher than my subscriptions, and I don't quite understand that. But yeah, that'll make me end the year brilliantly if I can see them subscriptions go up, guys. So do the right thing, and I'll release more videos for you lot as always, yeah? Traversal ENT signing out.